Maybe it's just because I'm a Disney or a Marvel shill. Actually, no. Thor 2 sucks. But Captain Marvel wasn't that bad. You know, the more I think about it, the more I thought it was pretty damn good. It wasn't perfect by any means, but overall I think it was a good movie. So first off, let's talk about the negative stigma people are giving this movie before they even see it. I don't think that's fair. With politics aside, you have to think about the message this movie gives to little girls. It's a good one, saying that they're capable of doing whatever they want to. Okay, so the movie. Yeah, the movie. Brie Larson is a good actress and she plays this role really well. I've read a ton of reviews of this movie and they all say that she is lacking in personality and not enthusiastic. This is kinda true. Actually, it's very true. You may be wondering,
Huh? How do you think that this is a good movie when the main character has no personality?
well, nerd, that is because that's how she's supposed to be. It's mentioned in the movie multiple times that she is supposed to suppress her emotions to make her more powerful in battle or whatever. Also, she literally doesn't remember who she is for 80% of the movie, so obviously she is going to have a somewhat dull personality. That's who the character is. So when people say that her having no personality is what makes the movie bad, it's almost not a valid point, and that's because they explain it like 4 times. So once you accept that her personality is supposed to be kinda dull, the movie becomes really fun. Marvel hasn't made a bad movie since like Thor 2, so at this point they kinda know what they're doing. The only other thing that kinda drags this movie down for me is the 90s references. At first they're great and funny, but they kinda get a little distracting. Like, yeah, we get it. It takes place in the 90s. You don't have to keep showing close-ups of things from the 90s, but that's not too much of a huge gripe. So now, let's talk about the good things. This movie is hilarious. The humor is very Marvel-esque, so if you aren't a big fan of that, that might annoy you. But some of the joke delivery was just gold. The chemistry between Brie Larson and Samuel L. Jackson was so good. Whenever they were on scene together doing their buddy cop dynamic thing, I couldn't stop smiling. And also, side note, the de-aging on Samuel L. Jackson's face was nuts. There was only like one scene where it kinda distracted me, but the rest of the time I forgot they even CGI'd his face at all. Something else I wanted to mention was the music and the score. I've been seeing a lot of people complaining about the music playing in certain scenes. Well, it may be a slight spoiler, but when the Nirvana song came on, it was super hype. I love that scene. But when the other scene came on and that one song started playing, I'm not gonna tell you what it was because it's a bit spoilery. I feel like it was a bit too on the nose, like a bit corny. But I let these movies be kinda corny sometimes. I mean, they are superhero movies. They don't ever pretend to be like some hyper-realistic interpretation of heroes. But yeah, it was a bit corny. Another thing about the music I wanted to mention was the score at some points. There were a couple scenes where the score sounded exactly like John Williams' score of Star Wars. Just for a few seconds, I swear it was his. The scenes were in space of all places too. Quick mention, the villains of this movie were pretty good. I don't really have anything bad to say. I feel like they were done really well. And I'm not gonna give any spoilers, but there's some really good twists that I appreciated. It didn't feel forced or cliche at all, they were actually pretty good. Also, Ben Mendelsohn completely stole the show from me. No spoilers, but it's funny. And not to discredit Brie, she played her character really well. But again, that's kind of the problem with this movie. She played her character too well. Even though this movie worked for me, I think it would have been smarter to have a female character like Black Widow or something. People are used to seeing her, and even people who are casual fans recognize her at this point. While Captain Marvel is kind of an obscure character, and her personality before she gets her memory back will make a lot of people think that she isn't a good character. I think that this movie would have worked a lot better for people if it was released a few years from now, when a couple of other female-led characters had their time to shine. Black Widow has been in the MCU for almost 10 years, and personally, I think she deserves her own movie at this point. Brie Larson plays this role almost perfectly, which is why people think she wasn't a good casting. But that's because they don't realize that she's playing the character spot on. They don't know enough about the character to understand that she's doing good. It would have worked so much better if this movie was released maybe after Endgame, so we got to meet Carol and understand how she acts before learning about her backstory. That way the mainstream audience will have more interest. But that's not what they decided to do. Obviously they're more knowledgeable than I am. They are the ones who created a billion-dollar film franchise. What do I know? I'm just a YouTuber with like 5 subs. So if you want to change that, subscribe. Ignore the Rotten Tomato scores, ignore the negative stigma because those people probably haven't seen it. You're gonna look at any source for reviews, I'd say look at Letterboxd, and they usually give a rating out of 5, and I gave this a 3.5 out of 5 because it's good. It's not incredible, it's not amazing, but it is a good movie. It's a good Marvel movie. So if you're thinking about seeing it, I think you should go see it and form your own opinion of it instead of listening to other people and hopping on a bandwagon of hate.